So along with the other video ideas I listed when I made the Oblivion Crisis Province video thingy, the sleeping tree in Skyrim was one of them, and I think it was the second most voted idea. But either way, I think the sleeping tree is a really unique landmark within Skyrim, and the lore behind the sleeping tree and where it came from is pretty interesting. I don't think a lot of people know what the sleeping tree actually is, but instead they assume it's just a random tree that gives you a legal drug. But it's not. It's actually a lot more than that. I'll try to make this as interesting and short enough so it doesn't put anybody to sleep. I'll go over the tree in Skyrim, then its history and the type of tree it is, aka his trees, and then some sort of final saying on the whole situation with it. Who doesn't love delving into topics where Bethesda don't give you a straight answer but allow you as a player to use your imagination to come up with some sort of origin story for blah blah blah. Hashtag College of Winterhold could have been so much more. But yeah, I think learning about the small stuff like this can be fun. I'm sure most of us Skyrim players have come across the tree and sapped it dry. Am I right, fellow Argonians? Not you. Anyways, make sure to comment your seeked out topic for the next video. I will choose the highest voted one, probably. So if we were going to talk about the sleeping tree in Skyrim, then we have to start with what the tree is and where it came from. So you probably have heard them mentioned in NPC dialogue or a book, but the Hiss trees are actually a huge part of the Elder Scrolls lore. They are all over Black Marsh. These trees are essentially an ancient and powerful type of being that originated as far back as when the Elnothi were still a thing, if I pronounced that correctly. They are magical trees that can directly communicate with one another, and when the sap from its trees is licked by somebody, it is able to communicate with them as well. It's also said that every single tree is connected by roots, and all that but speculation is speculation. So at one point these trees were all across Nirn, but it is believed that most of them were destroyed during the Elnothi wars in ancient times, or were taken down by the Dwemer for research and all that crap. But now the only place you can find them is in the Black Marsh, and of course the one in Skyrim. But the one in Skyrim is not of the same type directly as the ones in the Black Marsh. So it is said that these trees may have come from Oblivion, but then to counter their destruction during the Elnothi wars, the trees might have fled to Oblivion to avoid being completely wiped out. The trees were said to be able to move as well somehow, but whether they came from a realm of Oblivion or from Nirn itself, we won't ever really know. But if we were going to go over the one in Skyrim, it's important to realize which type it is, aka is it an Oblivion history or a Black Marsh history, as both do slightly variate. The ones in Oblivion are said to be a cousin to the ones in Black Marsh, not being as intelligent but still producing the same sap and stuff like that. In terms of the ones in the Black Marsh, the Argonians literally worship them as gods. Like, they won't even tell people about the trees in detail because it could almost be seen as a betrayal to their gods. These trees are usually surrounded by water because they draw from it for nourishment and as a fuel for their communications techniques and so forth. Their sap can even determine what gender an Argonian will be, and it can give Argonians visions among other things. A perfect example is going off of my most recent video about the provinces during the Oblivion Crisis and Black Marsh's involvement specifically. The Anzalil were given visions of the gates attacking and where they would attack. So with the sap they were made into super Argonians, which then went on to decimate the attacking Daedra from the gates. So the Hiss are much more than your average tree. So if you have ever heard of it, Umbriel was a floating city that came from Clavicus Vile's realm of Oblivion to attack Nirn about 50 years after the crisis. A bunch of heroes fought off the city and drove it back to Oblivion and all that. I would highly recommend reading the book on it, The Infernal City I think it's called. So this floating city had Hiss trees on it too. These are the cousins I was telling you about just a minute ago, and this city will come to be important in a couple of minutes when we go on to specifically talk about the tree in Skyrim. So we all know my amazing hoe Isolde, right? Well, if you go to the sleeping tree camp in the Whiterun Hold and explore the cave, you will find a note on a dead man which will lead you back to Isolde and start the quest Isolde shipment or something. But she will then ask you to get or give her some of the sap already collected and whatever, and I think, but also give you some information on the tree origins in return for giving her this stuff, which is the important part about all this. So she gives you two potential origin stories, one being from the Red Year in Morrowind where Red Mountain erupted. Apparently a piece of debris flew into the Whiterun Hold making a crater and then it grew from there or whatever. I call bull in this idea. I don't see how the Hist would have random seeds or spores just lying around around near molten lava, but you know, okay Zelda. But then the next one comes into play. She mentions it can also be a spore that fell from a floating city in the sky, which is referencing Umbriel obviously. Well, I firmly believe in this theory, because it wouldn't be impossible for a spore to have fallen from the city floating in the sky and landing conveniently in a small pool of water and then growing. Like, let's be honest, how else would it have come around? Maybe somebody grew it, you know? That is also a possibility, but let's give it the dramatic touch, you know? So the sleeping tree is a history. Whether it's an Oblivion spore or Black Marsh spore is yet to be discovered, but it is an extremely important tree, and the next time you go to it, give it a lick. I'm sure good stuff will come out of it, just like good old Maik here. He licked it and now he's dead. RIP. Do your usual, guys and gals. Leave your suggestions for the next topic in the comments below and I will be sure to check them out. I hope you all enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.